Morning, everybody. So today we are going to talk about trust. So to start with, we should probably talk about what trust really is. The easiest way to put it is that trust is when you are able to rely on someone or something. For example, we trust doctors to keep us healthy, or we trust that airplanes will stay in the air and will get us to where we need to go, to our final destination. But today, we are going to talk about our trust in God. So one of the coolest parts about my job is that I get to help with all the trips and retreats that we go on with our students. So we've gone to Wisconsin for Expedition Unlimited trips, we've gone to Carlinville for our Synod-wide youth gathering, and we've been to LOMC, the Lutheran camp here in Illinois, for retreats there as well. And one thing all of these places have in common is that they all have ropes courses. Now, ropes courses are a way to help teach students and the adults about teamwork and trust. When we do the low ropes courses, or the courses that are low to the ground, you really have to trust others around you to make sure you can still get through that. There's one type of course we did at Expeditions where there's this big net that kind of looks like a giant spider web, and you have to get your whole team through one side of the web to the other. And the big trick is once you use one method to get through, you can't use it again. So there are some gaps in this web that are really big and easy to get through, and there are some that are really, really narrow. And then there are some that are low to the ground that you could crawl under, but there are some way up high that you really have to lift people up. So you can see here, that's what we had to do with one person to get them through one end to the other. And so especially when you're that person that's going through that part of the web, you have to trust your teammates that they're going to be there to help and support you. And then they also have to trust you, because when you're that person, you have to be perfectly still and stay really, really tight to get all the way through. So it's trust on both ends there. So not only do we have the low ropes courses, but we also have high ropes courses. Now these are the courses that are way up in the air, and the participants have to trust the ropes and the harnesses and have to know that they won't fall. Now for me, these are much scarier because they're normally about 40 feet in the air, and you actually have to walk on ropes or steel cords or cables themselves to walk on. So you can actually see here, sometimes there's even swings or other things that are up on the course that you have to use to get across. And so with that, you have to trust yourself and your harness and everything else to make sure that even if you were to fall off the course, you would still be able to be on your harness and get back on. So now, why do so many places use these for church retreats? Why are ropes courses so important? Well, trust is a big part of faith. When you look at what we're called to do as Christians, it can actually be really hard work and sometimes even kind of scary. We even see today that Peter is called to get out of the boat and walk on water. And that would be terrifying. And there are other stories in the Bible where Jesus asks his disciples to do crazy things, like once he asks for more water when a party runs out of wine, and another time he tells his disciples that they're not allowed to bring anything with them when they are going out and spreading the gospel. But for us personally, we know we are called not just to love our neighbors, but we're also called to love our enemies. We're called to forgive people rather than get revenge. We're called to help others rather than trying to figure out why they can't help themselves. Doing what we are called to do is not the easy way, but we have to trust God and know that when we are doing God's work in the world, we are doing good work. But just like Peter, sometimes we fall down. We don't always trust what we're called to do. We mess up. It may be really scary to go and do something knowing that you can fail. But the other thing we learn from this story is that Jesus is right there to pick up Peter. Jesus doesn't let Peter drown. Jesus does that with us too. Even when we mess up, Jesus forgives our sins and helps us get right back on track doing God's work in the world. So we can remember that even when things are scary, when we feel like we're being called to do things we don't feel comfortable doing, we can remember that God is like that harness on the ropes course and is ready to catch us and help get us right back on course.